May I ask you to introduce yourself a bit with some words?
I introduce myself.
Yes, please.
My date of birth is 10th March 1924.
Mm-hmm.
I qualified as an architect,
Mm-hmm.
as a member of the Royal Institute of British Architects in 1952. Before that, I had studied in Delhi, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got this offer to work for the capital project in that year, 1952. And ever since, I have been working here in Chandigarh, except for a brief period of 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
when I had gone to Ludhiana to build the Punjab Agricultural University.
Ah, yeah.
I returned from there, still part of the Punjab government organization, but then as a principal of the College of Architecture, from where I retired in 1982. Since retiring, I have become more of an artist than of an architect. But anyway, I've been doing architecture also, and now I'm entirely an artist.
Mm.
I think that introduction is enough.
Yes, it's
Okay.
wonderful. Nice. And which building did you plan here in Chandigarh? Or
In Chandigarh, quite a number of them, but the more famous ones are or was the Tagore Theatre of Chandigarh.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had done a number of cinema halls for their architectural control.
Mm-hmm.
I had done a lot of architectural control of houses.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, I had built the district court buildings of this. Then Indo-Swiss Training Center, then a marriage hall,
Mm-hmm.
then many hostels. And in the Punjab Agriculture University, I did all sorts of jobs like college buildings and housing and many others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So besides this Chandigarh Tagore Theatre, I was called to build a theatre in Jammu
Mm-hmm.
and number of other projects. So I have been quite busy as an architect also.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And you worked with Le Corbusier and his team. You were in this team.
Well, Corbusier was here, and amongst other things, when I had done this Tagore Theatre and some buildings, I was asked to be with him for the design of the what is now called the Chandigarh College of Art. You see, when I went to him and he didn't call it College of Art, he called it Audio Visual Training Center. That is his word that
Yes.
he used.
Yeah.
And I worked him only on that project as a project.
I see.
But besides that, I would be meeting him and he would meet me and all that sort of thing
Yes.
was there.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question with, could you tell me something about the teamwork? Because it was a whole team, the Indian architects, Mr. Aman Sharma and you, and
Yeah.
how many others, and then the Europeans. How was this teamwork like?
You see, I will put it to you like this. It was part of the contract when the foreign team was employed that they will have to station themselves in Chandigarh,
Mm-hmm.
so that by working with them, our Indian team could sort of learn. So I have no hesitation in acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
that although I had done the membership of the RIBA in London,
Mm-hmm.
my real education started in working with this team in Chandigarh. Because the philosophy of work here with Le Corbusier, Pierre, Jeanneret, Maxwell Fry and Jeanneret was to look at every project ab initio,
Mm-hmm.
as a thing to be explored in its own right,
Yeah.
without too much reference to anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the best part of the training we had, that we look at every project as a thing in itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would say that there was a free movement of who works with whom.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah.
And it was a very open environment in that sense, that one could go to anyone to ask anyone. And one could sort of walk into the big hall and sort of sit together for lunch and talk and discuss things.
Yeah.
Which was a very enriching experience. Then there was this atmosphere of research all the time, because, for instance, in my own case, I was asked to attend a seminar in Bombay by the National Building Organization, and I was given the topic of climate and civic art. That gave me an opportunity to understand the sun, because we were educated, we had little idea of sun, but Corbusier had come forward with his grid of sun, etc., with more details. I questioned some of his things, so I did my own study of the sun. And that brought a lot of revolution in my thinking, and I was able to project certain ideas because of that thought, that here I am sitting here to challenge what Corbusier had put across. And one of the principal themes of that study was that foreigners coming from cold country, they thought that India is a hot country, so the sun has to be cut out at all costs. But I had lived in this country and thought sun is more generally welcome. In winter it is very, very welcome, and in summer, early in the morning, it is all right. I mean, it has a problem. But it is not unwelcome. So I sort of studied that and said that certain orientations are better for sun to be penetrated. And that sort of thing, understand. I mean, no one challenged me for doing that. No one said anything against me.
So you could bring in your own ideas.
That's right. So that is what I mean, that here was an atmosphere of study, research, and put forward your ideas, which only inculcated here, rather than the dogmatic system of you do this, you do this, you do this.
Sounds very nice.
When I designed the Tagore Theatre, there was no theatre to be. My own knowledge that I had from London helped me. And I did so many revolutionary things in this design, and nobody objected to anything I did. It was, I think, a job given to me on a platter. You do what you like, more or less. And I think I achieved something extraordinary, which
It's now being destroyed, actually. They're just bringing it.
It's a pity. It's a pity.
Well, let us not talk about that part. You see, the administration changes, new people come and they have funny ideas of what a theatre is. According to them, theatre is another hall, another auditorium. And they think that, it is now so old, why don't we modernize it? And why don't we put new chairs and increase its capacity, because sometimes it is overfilled, etc. And then why not upgrade it? And upgradation means just destruction. If you are insensitive to what a theatre is. So that is, I mean, I put my protest in so many words. And now others have joined the chorus, telling this it is a destruction, it is tragedy beyond measure that we have broken in. Anyway, that is part of life, one can't always escape.
This is this heritage discussion, isn't it? Is this also part of this heritage discussion?
They have said we will retain the exterior as it is, and we will just change the inside. I said if you remove my heart and my lungs and things like that, and say my body will remain the same, it is ridiculous.
Yes, it is. It is.
You see, there was a time when the chief architect's office was the fountainhead. It was the job of the chief architect to anticipate the problems of the city and propose solutions. Now it is reverse. Now it is the administration which tells
Okay.
what you do. And whether the chief architect does something or they employ someone from outside or somewhere, or consult somebody from somewhere and execute it. The ideas which the chief architect's office floated, that this is how it must be, that was respected. And if the administration had any objection, it was countered by the chief architect's office.
Yes.
It is done by because of this. There are a number of things which we ourselves introduced. One of the things was what is known as architectural controls, of which I was quite a bit of author. And of these, what is known as frame control, now it is commonly used term, was used for what is terrace housing. You see houses shoulder to shoulder. That the normal bylaws said that within that plot of narrow frontage, as long as you meet the building regulations, you can put your house anywhere. But since the walls on the two sides are common, no one knew where one's wall will begin or end, or how high will go within that height. So I thought that if we build like that, then it will be a very unorganized picture of the city. And then I created what came to known as the frame control, that the party walls are compulsory, and the extent of these, and to height is compulsory, and a connecting course is compulsory. Remaining behind that, you do what you like. That means the whole thing is tied together by a system in which you work, which has become so common now as a system that it didn't exist before that. I mean, it was a creation of this architect's office department. I had to convince the administration, and then they called a number of committed citizens and architect practitioners, etc., to put the idea to them, and they should say, yes, it is all right. And I had to prove to them that it is beneficial for everybody. So they agreed. So that is the sort of thing. I think it is a very healthy sort of sign.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if the administration say, all right, change this bylaw, change this.
There is no awareness
They do set up some committees, but the committees sort of keep on changing, etc. Rather than chief architect applying his or her mind and saying what is right professionally. It is more or less question of how to meet the demands of the administration.
I see.
You see, with regard to this Tagore Theatre, when I saw the project, I had said it is going to be a disaster if you do it like this, because you change the concept. And I had to walk out of that meeting, but they stuck to their guns and had this private architect do the design, and now the results are there for them to see. At least they have a big protest on their hands now, because the others have joined in the chorus. But there are many projects going in which there is no protest even.
Because nobody is This is a pity. But what do you think about there is this problem with density and density, that it is so
density
because the city can't spread out, so that, and there was one idea that the density in the sectors is more. What do you think about that?
Let me put it like this. I mean, Corbusier had conceived the city as a government city, of a limited city, of a limited function. He mentioned it also. But my own feeling is that it was a wrong thing to say. Because no city of the world has ever retained its original concept.
Yes.
And I personally believe that Corbusier himself must have realized this mistake. Because towards the end of his career, he wrote a book called, or he penned a book, which was, I don't know if ever finished, Three Human Establishment, in which he predicted that the cities grow along the lines of communication with the other cities.
Yeah.
You see, and
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, here, like in Delhi, the city has started to grow in the ring fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever they find places, they sort of acquire this land and begin to build.
Mm.
And then they build what is known as circular road or bypass roads and that sort of thing happening. Whereas this idea I worked upon on my own independently, said, yes, city must grow, but
Mhm.
it must be given a direction.
Okay.
It must accommodate the new requirement.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just hang on to the idea because there is no wall built around the city that you can't enter the city, etc.
Mhm.
It's a democratic setup.
Mm.
So it must grow.
Mm-hmm.
But how it must grow is the job of the professional.
Okay, I see.
So I created a system of thought that, I mean, everything that is Corbusier laid down as a concept
Mm-hmm.
is not sacrosanct.
Mm-hmm.
We must think further.
Mm-hmm.
So I built up certain parameters of thought in which one of the ideas was that each sector is self-sufficient, although in a consumer sort of way,
Yeah.
but it must also be self-sufficient in production sort of way.
Uh-huh.
For instance, its water supply, its power generation, its food supply and other means that can be employed with the modern technology. It should be attempted to be self-sufficient.
Uh-huh.
That these things should be introduced.
Yes.
Like we are talking of slums, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Slums, in my view, are useful to the city, though by themselves the people live in the slums
Mm-hmm.
are poor and not cared for, but they provide all the services to the city.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a relevance
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that they need a place in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that they are central to the recycling process
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
rather than throw them out, which most thinkers do, to put them on the periphery
Yeah.
and provide them within the sector, in the heart, and do the recycling of everything within this.
Yes, that's a good
In
idea.
fact, it is not only possible, it is highly desirable that you process what you can by technology near where the waste is produced.
Yes.
If you throw it further away, the further it goes, the more diluted its treatment is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I developed that idea.
Mm.
Secondly, I thought that a sector should have clear concept, like Corbusier had this clear concept of this road system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He in fact did say during his time here that in Chandigarh, pedestrian will be the king,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that he will have the rights to be where he wants to be. Unfortunately, he never worked out how should he cross the highways. He left it, I think he left and people went around with funny ideas like an underground passage and things like that, and which never worked. So I worked on that idea and said, well, it is easy for a motorized vehicle
Mm-hmm.
to go up a gradient,
Yes.
whereas a pedestrian or a cyclist must stay on the level ground.
Yeah.
So that was my premise of thinking. So I've created a whole new concept of
Yeah.
a sector. That a sector, all vehicles stay at higher level,
Yeah.
and all pedestrian or non-motorized vehicles or pedestrians stay at the ground level, on level ground.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I find pedestrians and non-motorized vehicles are quite compatible,
Mm-hmm.
whereas motorized vehicles and non-motorized vehicles are not compatible because these heavy motorized things throw them away, which I see every day. So this is one basic concept.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing I thought was that if a city has to grow, its nutrition, food supply now is becoming more and more distant. It is now coming from far places. I thought it is basically wrong.
Yes.
When the city was small, then you could depend on the surrounding countryside.
Yeah.
But if the city grows, then the amount of food that has to come and the waste that has to go goes on increasing. So I said it must be simultaneous. That city should grow because the knowledge exists in the city. The people with brain thinking stay in the city. They don't want to be posted 100 miles out. So why should we not have a system of growth of a city that the production and production of nutrients and other things, and of course the knowledge and application of technology and what other things are happening which are make the city runs simultaneously. For instance, if there is a connecting road between Chandigarh and the next city, one side of it should be reserved for production of food, timber, horticulture, animal husbandry, all the things which provide. And this connecting road will not have too much cross traffic there. You understand?
Okay.
Because these things require less number of people and a lot of land.
Yeah.
Whereas one side you have a road raised at an upper level, whereas the ground level stays for warehousing and other things which happen, because that will be all pedestrian level. So I mean, I developed that entire concept that we should grow in that so much space becomes available. And then sectors, etc., how you move, because the incompatible things cannot be kept together.
Yes.
You see, London Underground works because it is not in the way of anybody. They deliver the passengers in the wherever you want. They can't run at the same level as the others.
Yes.
So it's that idea which I took in this worked it out. But unfortunately, the habits die hard. No one is willing to accept that idea. They think if there is a problem, you make a bypass road. And a bypass road, I found, wherever you make a bypass road, the city grows up to the bypass road and jumps over.
I see.
So that like Delhi has become, you have a core and then you have one, then you have a third, and that you becomes a mass, which I consider entirely wrong. It should not be allowed.
It's a big problem.
It has become such a terrible problem. Not just a problem, it is a terrible problem. I lived in Delhi, I grew up in Delhi. Now I find that if I have to go to Delhi, I like to come back immediately. And I fear Chandigarh is going to become like that in 10 years' time.
I see.
Already there is so much traffic on these roads that you find it difficult.
Yeah, but it's anyway better than in any other town.
Just now it is better. The question is, I can foresee what is happening.
Yeah.
We must foresee how the forces are going to work. And unfortunately, they think if there is a problem of car parking, make underground car park, which don't work here.
Going back to the Le Corbusier and the beginning of when you build up the town, I have a question of, you said you had discussed a lot in the team. And what were the most important topics that were discussed, and was the lifestyle of the people who will live in these houses, was this a topic too?
Well, in the beginning, you see, we were very few. There were old villages and a little bit of establishments here and there. And we depended on going to the other small towns around for our daily needs. There was this little market called Bijwada from which we bought these chairs, because our country has plenty of people who live in shacks and ply their trade on mobile shops called reddies. And they supplied our needs. And that I find is still everywhere, wherever there is any growth. The question is, as the city grew, it became, instead of we going out, the other began to come in here, because this city provided the best amenities, water supply, electricity, underground drainage, all things were provided. And once the city took off sometimes in the 60s, it began to be a flood that people wanted to come to this city, because in the old cities there was too much crowding and not enough space for the cars to move. Here people saw the wide roads and said we can run at high speed, and everyone thought there can't be anything better than a very wide road on which to drive your car or motorcycle or what have you. No one anticipated that high speed can kill. No one anticipated that too many cars can kill. Until in some year 60s, there was a strict rule of car production. No, except for a very few cars that were produced in the country. One had to wait several years before his turn to buy a car would come. Life was fine. You see, life was really, you could go to Delhi, you could go anywhere, and in the city, there was a joke that on the main roads, you show right and can turn left, nothing will happen. You understand? Because the roads were aplenty. But once the state liberalized the car production, because there is more jobs created and more employment created and all that sort of thing, the destruction of the fabric of the city is beyond measure. So the question is, the two juxtaposition of powered vehicle and human or animal powered vehicle is too much to survive in that. You see, you can't have a city bombed from above and fight with a bow and arrow. You can't do that. So that's the question, that one should anticipate the introduction of a vehicle. And if one does have the vehicle, then one should see how to put that under control. You see, you build airports because you know you can't have the aircraft landing on the city roads. So you put it way outside, 20 miles out. Personally, I think it is wrong. But as a concept, you think that way, that you put the railway station, you don't put the railway line in the city. You put it somewhere that it can do on its own. But no one thinks that when you drive a car, why can't it go right into the streets of the city? Everyone thinks, you can go, it is not so wide. If the street is only 10, 12 feet wide, you can still go. So the vehicles go, the motorcycles go, everything goes, and the fabric of the city is finished. You see, you cut across everything. So this is the thought that must go in the creation of any growth or plan of a city. That if you are going to have a city for vehicles, then there has to be a place for them, and then the freedom for the others. You see, the main thing of a human being is freedom to be, to move, to step out, for the children to play, for the women to gossip, for the men to move with dignity. Not be always, car is coming. Hold the child, let him not run, let him not this, let him this. This is destructive. So I think the city started with that idea. It is fine. No one thought that there will be shortage of water, there will be pollution, there will be anything for a long time until this invasion of the motorized vehicle came. City was absolutely fine. If one doesn't think of a car or a motorized vehicle in the same way as an aeroplane, then the trouble is going to happen. You see, you don't bring the train everywhere. You create a special track for the train. Even if you have to come to the city, it has to have a track for itself. I think all motorized vehicles should have a track in the system, that this is your method of moving. Leave the city alone.
After all these years since Chandigarh was built, what do you think are the main advantages of the town? The main advantages of the city? And what?
Well, you see, at least one thing, it has made professionals and others aware that city is possible to be planned. Formerly, there was no such thing as planning. I mean, you had a road, so you built wherever you wanted and allowed it to grow, to sort of grow, and problems arise as say make a bypass or do this and that, and solve the problem as they came. But I think the building of the city has created a body of professionals who can, if they apply their minds, plan a city, plan its growth, plan its maintenance, look ahead rather than just keep on solving problems as they come. So I think it is the great advantages that we have the awareness of the possibility of creating worthwhile cities. Even now, if we apply our mind that environment is the biggest casualty of the modern planning, if we apply our minds how to use the natural sources of energy, bioenergy, wind energy, sun energy, and so many energies which we never thought of were worthwhile, it is possible to employ so many assets of nature in creating a worthwhile living environment. That going headlong for this fossil fuels utilization for generating power, locating that of distant places and then running power lines all over and then having the tripping and putting the whole city in darkness and creating such much amount of pollution, etc. It is the lesson we can learn. We can, the technology is available, but it is the application of that technology for the benefit of the common man that is important, which unfortunately enough is not being done about. We are still groping, oh yes, so and so has done it, so can we do it? It is so costly and all that sort of question. It is for me not a question of cost, it is a question of survival.
Yes, it is.
So first is survival. If you look at it from the survival angle, then the cost is secondary. And secondly, I find that if you begin to apply a thing that is solar energy or wind energy, in the beginning it is costly, but as you go on, you will find methods to make it pay.
In the end, it will be cheaper.
It will become cheaper.
Yes.
In fact, we are losing so much of our organic waste, and which we clog our drains and everything. All that is energy.
Yes.
All that can be converted into power or manure or many things, but that is accepted as from the old concept that is waste, and so it must be thrown into the rivers or landfill or what have you. I think the modern science has already shown us that it is possible that any waste is not a waste, it is a source. Any waste, if you treat it, look at it in that light, that it is a source. It is a potential source of something or the other. So there should not be any waste.